How
Perfect.
are you?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
Oh, really good, really good.
It's great to
You're not you're not dressed for a heat wave. Where are you?
Well, I'm sitting in a cool shed, a lodge in my garden. So it's out of the sun first thing in the morning and then
Okay,
progressively hotter as we go through the day. So I'm kind of
yeah,
hoping that it's going to be okay. If it gets hot, I'll just take my top off.
fine, good.
After a t-shirt. So how are you? You've had a busy few days, haven't you?
Oh God, I don't mind the gigs. I really love performing, but the travel is a nightmare.
I imagine.
Um, the, Heathrow Airport on Saturday, all of us, wet, 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 me, Carol Decker, Chesney Hawkes, quite a few others, were supposed to be on an 11 o'clock flight that got withheld by an hour.
Yeah.
So by the time we landed in Belfast, I literally had to get changed in the car, run out the car onto the stage, do the show, run back into the car, and get the plane back. I mean, it's just, I get so wound up by these things.
Yeah. Yeah.
The only time that you think, is when you're actually on stage and you think,
You can relax
I
almost.
can relax. People always say to me, you're so energetic. And I say, I'm just so fucking happy to be here.
Well, I saw some of the photographs over the weekend. You had Rebellion.
Oh,
Thursday, wasn't it?
Friday, it was
Was it Friday? I worked on
amazing.
Friday. I did Friday and Saturday, but I was working on Friday, so I missed the gig, and I apologise. So, and
It
then you
was
had Durham, didn't you, yesterday on Sunday?
yesterday, yeah. Stone Valley.
Yeah,
It's been three amazing shows.
yeah,
Um, our fest was breathtaking.
yeah, yeah.
My sound man didn't realise there was a sound limit, so for my first three numbers, I mean, even Lytham St Anne knew what I was doing. It was so loud, it was breathtaking, and then someone came with a sound monitor and said, "Could you turn it down, please?"
Were you in the Empress Ballroom, or were you in the
No, I
front?
was on the promenade,
Oh, were
which
you?
I loved.
Yeah, it was
It
great.
was huge. I loved it.
I've got the set list and everything, and it looks like a really sort of fun show. From
For me
yeah,
to be on the promenade,
yeah,
I'm not a great performer at midnight. And when I've done the Rebellion before and you go on at midnight, I mean, I really feel it. It's quite hard for me
yeah,
to deliver my energy at that time.
yeah.
For me to be on in sunlight, and it was very bright on Friday, with the tower literally yards
Just
away.
there, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was there, and people were on the glass floor watching the show. I mean, I looked up and you could see people watching the show. It was full. I mean, absolutely rammed. And I loved it. It was perfect for me to do an alternate festival going back to my punk roots at 4 in the afternoon. For me was absolutely perfect. And I loved the audience and I loved being, you could hear the waves,
Yeah.
which for me was just orgasmic. You know, just hearing them hit the shore while you're singing is just something that I want to experience again. I really enjoyed it, every minute of it, and the audience was great.
And what a colourful audience. Have you ever seen it? The spiky hair, the studs, the leather jackets. It was just
What I
incredible.
what I really loved is you had the people who really looked like that, and
Yeah.
then you had the Blackpool holiday makers who were wearing funny hats with Mohicans. And you just thought, should the twain ever meet like that? I mean, it was so odd because the real punks and the real Mohicans are very protective of how they live and what they represent, standing side by side with someone with a stick-on
Yeah.
Mohican. It was fascinating.
It really was. And I was sort of walking around the venue as well, around the Winter Gardens, and you could see all of the hotels, and the punks were sitting sort of, in deck chairs out the front
I
on.
loved it.
It was just incredible. I've never seen such a colourful festival. And I've been to Leeds and lots of different festivals, but where do you get such a concentration of just one mind, not one way of dressing yourself, but a genre just represented so wholly in one place? It was incredible.
And for me, it made sense of Blackpool
Yeah,
because Blackpool is
yeah,
it's hit and miss sometimes.
yeah,
The sun was out. You have these wonderful, diverse human beings who are always friendly. and they were everywhere. And it was the most perfect day and the most perfect world for me on that day.
Oh,
Because when you look back to 45 years ago, that would have been a very different story. I mean, you'd have had riots, there would have been chairs being thrown, but
yeah,
this was harmonious. It was beautiful. And I just thought this makes sense of Blackpool.
yeah.
It was the perfect place to have the festival.
Oh, absolutely right. And I was thrilled to see the mix of audiences. You talk about the locals and the punks, but I was looking down from the balcony at Cockney Rejects and the Blockheads and whatever. And the mix of people down there, it wasn't just people in the 50s and 60s who remember punk the first time. And actually, if they did fall over, they were helping each other up, not smacking
Yeah,
the hell out of each other. There were
yeah.
kids there as well,
And
18 and 20-year-olds.
and very good disabled platforms as well.
Yes, I
Which,
saw that too
which
on the right-hand side.
I can't bear it when people in wheelchairs are put right close to those speakers and they suffer for that. And I looked out and I saw two fantastic platforms where they could really get the best view and they were safe. I thought it was very well designed.
Oh, absolutely. I did as well. I thought it was fantastic. I just love the fact that when there was a skirmish in the mosh pit, there weren't people being knocked over.
Yeah, yeah.
They were really, really enjoying it.
Holding each other up.
And the other thing that I noticed, and you'll know what I mean, is that there were people crowd surfing, and they'd crowd surf to the front, and then like a kid with a sugar rush on a helter skelter grabbing their match, they'd run round and do it again.
Yeah, yeah. It was great. It was perfect.
I absolutely loved it. So we're going to talk about predominantly, you've got the tour with Billy Idol coming up, which I just
Yeah.
a fantastic event for you. Can you tell us a little bit about how that came together and how you got the
A
support?
bolt out of the blue. I'm slowly learning the history of this tour, that it had to be postponed because of COVID and that the Go-Go's were originally opening.
Yeah.
And I just a bolt out of the blue, I got a phone call saying, can I fit these arenas in while I'm doing my Anthem tour? Because my album Anthem is being re-released on the 9th of September. So I'm out touring that.
Yeah.
And by some really strange coincidence, I can fit every one of the arena shows in.
Wow.
And I'm wildly excited, not only about Billy Idol, and I've been performing Rebel Yell for 20 years
I
now.
noticed that on your set list, and I was going to ask you whether you were going to include it in October.
No, God, no, God, I'd be so,
Can you imagine doing Rebel Yell and then Billy comes on and does Rebel Yell?
yeah, the whole of my set, Moni Moni, Rebel Yell, White Wedding,
Yeah.
enjoy Billy Idol.
It's like telling the word, the best joke at a wedding, isn't it? And then
Yeah, shouting out the answer.
exactly. Yeah.
But another thing that's really exciting me about this tour is television and Marquee Moon.
Absolutely fantastic. I loved that when it came out in '79. I devoured it. I think we all.
Yeah.
It was amazing to see that.
And I think it's so clever of Billy and his management to do that,
Yeah.
because everyone is going to be going to hear White Wedding, Moni Moni, and Rebel Yell.
Yeah.
And Billy has quite an extended repertoire.
Yeah.
And I think for him to add television and to add me with my punk history, it allows people to go into the genre that Rebellion Festival goes into. And, I can play the pop. I've got Slave to the Rhythm coming out as a single
Yes,
this
I saw
Friday.
that too. Yeah, I was going to ask.
So, we can deliver the hits, we can deliver the pop. But what I loved about Rebellion and Stone Valley this weekend, I was able to do my very first songs, which are completely out there. And this is what I'm going to try and do with the Billy Idol tour, is just do the whole 45-year journey in half an hour.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're going to be playing It's a Mystery, Thunder in the Mountains, and really
Yeah.
hit it. And that's a really clever thing, as you were saying, that Billy's done, because you've got that New York cool going on one side, you've got the pop on your side, and then you've got Mr. Arena himself, Billy Idol, in the middle, which
Yeah.
honestly, when I saw the venues, I thought, my God, Billy Idol is huge still. And
Yeah.
that's the thing that hit me, that he was playing all of those, the AO Arena and all that sort of thing. Those are huge venues. I mean, you've got 3,000-4,000. No, actually, in the front of the promenade, they're more like sort of 10,000 people, weren't there?
There was at least 10,000.
Yeah. I think they sold 15,000 tickets. But even in the Emperor's Ballroom, for people like Cock Sparrow, Cockney Rejects, the Blockheads, there were 3,000 or 4,000 people in that Empress
Yeah,
Ball. That was incredible. But moving up to the arenas, you're going to be talking 15, 20,000 people. These are
yeah,
big shows,
yeah.
aren't
And Billy is, he's a classic name now,
they? Yeah. Yeah.
like Alice Cooper, like
I
Ozzy
was going to say
Osbourne.
that. Case Alice Cooper, they filled
Yeah,
these big
yeah.
arenas. And it is
And,
another way of seeing it, isn't it?
and I think it helps that Billy is a very visual artist. I mean, he's great looking. His videos are fucking amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you've got all of those qualities about your historic work, I think you can easily fill an arena.
No, absolutely right. Yeah, he's got such a rich history going right the way back to Generation X, of course.
Yeah,
I
of
mean,
course.
and what a look that was going all that way. So where are we up to? Yes, I believe Robert's appearing with you, which I'm thrilled to hear. Is he going to punctuate it with some prog edge? And how's it going to work? Oh,
Robert and I start touring together October 2023 when
I
we tour
see.
Sunday Lunch. But you have preempted something because we are doing a premiere to it with Trevor Horn at Crop Ready this Thursday.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, we're in the Trevor Horn band, and no one knows yet. So
Can we say that?
yeah, yeah. Well, my work with Robert is now part of the Posh Pop brand, which
The last album.
myself, yeah, myself and Simon Darlow, we created that in lockdown with the Posh Pop album, which went to number one in about 36 charts, 22 in the main charts. So Robert is now part of the lineup, and we start writing Posh Pop 2 in November,
Yeah.
and it's going to be quite a rocky album. So Robert and I are officially working together, but that's really coming in 2023.
Yeah. I'll talk about the videos later on because I've got a few more things to go through. But I just love the synergy of you two in the kitchen. It's just amazing. But I'll talk about that in a minute. I just want to ask you a few questions to fill in a few holes and just sort of make the connection from the late 70s to now. So just
Yeah.
indulge me for a second. You've always been a trailblazing woman in a man's world and an inspiration for so many. Who did you take inspiration from in the late 70s? Because you were a woman working in a very, very difficult industry, acting, and then you jumped into singing,
Yeah.
through Quadrophenia, whatever, and glitter. So how did that? What gave you the inspiration and the guts and guile to push yourself forward?
I always intended to come to London and be a musician.
Yeah.
My kind of rather stupid intention was using acting as a stepping stone.
Why was that?
And
Because that was in you, wasn't it?
yeah, well, I got spotted on the streets of Birmingham because I was dressing like a punk when no one knew what punk was,
You
including
would have.
me.
Yes, yes, yes.
Because I was a hair model, so I made my own clothes, and I was a hair model for Weller.
Yeah,
So my hair was pretty strange in 1975,
yeah.
and I got spotted, and I ended up starring in a half-hour TV drama on BBC Two about a young girl who breaks into the Top of the Pop studios to sing two songs, and
That glitter with
glitter, and I had to write those songs. I'd had no experience of being in a band, of singing at a microphone until that studio experience.
Yeah.
And then when that was seen, I was invited to join the National Theatre, by which time I was 18, and that put me in an environment of musicians. And I started to learn about the London punk movement and performers like Polystyrene and performers that weren't your conventional Farrah Fawcett major model type looking women really inspired me, because I'm barely 5 foot tall, and at that time I was 3 stone heavier, and I didn't know how I was going to fit into the music world, but punk opened the doors for everyone, all diversity, all body types, and it made it possible for me. And I put a band together and started to do gigs when I wasn't on stage at the National Theatre, mainly to help me get over my stage nerves, which I had until about 1990. And I just pushed and pushed and pushed to get gigs. Back then, hugely healthy pub circuit. And eventually, towards the end of the pub circuit time in my career, we had 2,000 people turning up every night blocking the roads.
Wow.
And I still wasn't signed. And Safari Records wanted to sign a punk act, so they signed me. No other label would touch
I
me.
knew you were on Safari, but I didn't know any other bands on Safari. It wasn't a well-known label at the time.
Um,
Did you?
at the time, you had Wayne County, who's now Jane
Yes,
County.
yeah,
So historically, all of that
yeah,
catalogue
yeah.
was with Safari, but they also had Deep Purple.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah. Wow, that's yes, yes. And that was a springboard into it, wasn't it? But it
very much.
must have been tough. So you were spotted, but it was still must have been some sort of fight to get yourself out there. And
It's always been a bit tough.
yeah,
I think if I was 6'2" and looked like Elle Macpherson, life would have been much easier.
yeah,
But it's always been tough. But I'm relentless. I don't go away. I
yeah,
mean, I got Monkey in Quadrophenia because
yeah.
I helped Franc Roddam out by putting John Lydon through the screen test for Quadrophenia.
Just
I
about to ask you that.
I didn't get a role, and Lydon was absolutely astonishing
Yeah,
on that screen test.
yeah.
He's a great actor. I'm waiting to be discovered. And I didn't get a job out of it. And I just turned up at the offices, production offices at Wembley Lee Electrics, banging on the window of Franc Roddam's office, going, "Give me a fucking job." And he called me in, and he had Phil Daniels in the office with him. And he said, "Well, if you can do the party scene with Phil now, you've got the job." Well, Phil was in Glitter with me. I knew Phil.
You knew him from '76, of course. Yes.
So we improvised the party scene there and then, and I got the job. But I think Franc Roddam, I was not the ideal person to play Monkey. But he knew I just wasn't going to go away. And I was up and coming. I was an award-winning actress,
Yeah.
and I was a big name within London. But it's still been tough, mainly because virtually every scene I've done in a movie, I've had to be stood on a box to do a two-shot.
Right.
Yeah, because I'm so tiny. And that does affect you, especially in the world of Hollywood, where the average actor is 6 foot. So I've really had to push and persuade people that I am the woman for the job.
Yeah, but it's really about the ability. It's about the skill. It's about the delivery. It's not really about being 5'1" or whatever.
Yeah.
It's in there. It's in you, isn't it? That's
Well,
what.
a lot of yeah, it is, but a lot of British actresses are small,
Yeah,
and Judi Dench didn't break big time into movies until about the mid-80s. Up until that point, she was the world's leading stage actress, leading comic TV actress, and then boom, straight into Hollywood. And she made it possible for people like the smaller actresses, Imogen Stubbs, myself, to be in movies because suddenly people, like you've just
yeah,
said the talent comes first.
absolutely. I mean, look at Tom Cruise is reportedly quite short, but I believe he's 5'9" or something, which doesn't.
Yeah.
In a man's world, 5'9" is short. Yeah,
You
great.
see, in my world, it's bloody tall.
It's way up here.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, I've noted you've had 96 roles. It says on IMDb. Whether that be, I think they include TV as well. That's a lot, and it begs the question: what do you prefer to do? Do you prefer the sort of kudos and maybe it's more cerebral? I don't know, having to learn the lines and being in front of a camera, or getting up on stage and wowing 15,000 people? Where does the heart lie
Uh,
between the
they,
two?
they both have such an equality about them.
Mm.
Performing, I love performing on camera, and that's probably the only acting I'll do now. I don't think I'm going to do stage again unless it's like the National Theatre where you only do 4 shows a week,
Yeah, I saw you
because
in Manchester. That was
yeah, it's backbreaking doing 8 shows a week, and I don't feel my body can take that anymore. But as a performer, to be in a state of performance, whether I'm singing or acting, is absolute nirvana for me. It's my commune with God. It's unbeatable, and there is no choice between the two. I love going into an area of life that's supernatural, and for me performance is supernatural,
yeah.
and I could never give it up. I would go cold turkey and die. It's such a remarkably rewarding thing to do.
And is this from the the part itself, the learning the lines, the immersing yourself into a character? Is that what you're talking about?
It's
And the
absolutely
people and crew around you, the support that you get, is that what it
the support.
well, you know what I mean. Guys
I,
running down.
I've just won Best Critics Award at the Richard Harris Festival for Give Them Wings as Best Actress, which premiered in Leicester Square last
Yeah,
week.
yeah.
I mean, I was working in 5 degrees in a silk slip in bare feet on a street in Durham in winter in 2019 when we shot that. So it's the reward is for me the kind of schizophrenic escape. So when I'm learning lines and when I'm unraveling what the character is and words give you every bit of information you need, it's like taking the best holiday to the Bahamas you can take, because you don't know what the hotel's going to be like, you don't know what the weather's going to be like. It's all about discovering something that is governed by words, and I just adore it. When I'm on stage singing, that again, the words and how you deliver those words and the breathing techniques you use to deliver those words just take you into a higher consciousness.
Or
And I just couldn't live without doing that.
yeah, yeah. So actually, there's a lot to be taken from both. You can immerse yourself into acting, you can immerse yourself into the singing. I suppose with the singing that you are singing more of your own words, your own creations. And I guess that must give you an extra buzz. I can't imagine the feeling of writing something, a tune and words, and having those people jumping around to it.
And the word is immersion. It's total immersion. When you're singing, it's not just about the breathing and the delivery, it's about listening. And you're having to listen to every member of the band and come back into timing, because once you get expressive, you move out of timing. And I've only really learnt in recent years to use emotion on the downbeat, so to finish a word quicker rather than hold the note, because it has more impact. And another thing is learning about impact of music doesn't always come from having the bass end revved up. It comes from the harmonic interaction between the guitar, the keys and the voice and all of that. So it's you've got your foot right down on the accelerator when you're doing a gig, and you never take your foot off it. With acting, most of the time you're working to a camera with an ensemble of actors, but the other side of the camera, you've got people scratching their arses, yawning,
Wandering
eating,
around.
texting, on their mobiles, reading the newspaper. And that is terrifying, especially if you've got to cry on cue and you've got someone who's just got their finger up their nose in your eye line. It is extraordinary. And when you hear stories of the A-listers losing it on set because someone is distracting them in their eye line, it's quietly terrifying when you are carrying a whole day shoot that costs sometimes over £1 million to run the film on that day, and you're dealing with someone in your eye line who's texting or looking at porn on their phone. The responsibilities are huge, but at the same time the rewards are bigger.
Yeah, yeah. Do you obviously go to the screenings, and when you get to that, it must be an amazing feeling
No,
to see
no,
how
I
it's
never,
cut and put together.
no, I
Yeah.
never go to I never go. And with Give Them Wings, I've got all these awards for it, and it's started to be available for streaming now.
Yeah.
I will look at it now, but I have to say the context of the awards and the good reviews, and for me, the reviews have been phenomenal.
Amazing. Yeah,
Makes it possible for me to watch it.
absolutely. Just moving on then, there's been a huge renaissance in punk and post-punk and all of that sort of type of music. You've kind of, it's like your time has come again, isn't it?
Mm.
That everything's sort of converged in this perfect storm. And I follow a lot of bands like Istist and Slow Readers Club, and a lot of bands that have burst out of Manchester like the Blinders, and they're all right, but they've kind of helped bring back this sort of post-punk wave.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was listening to IEO, you one of your core tracks, and I love it. And it sits slightly out of the, It's a Mystery, Thunder in the Mountains. It's more sort of post-punk. It's more Susie and the Banshees than anything else. It's an amazing thing that this wave has almost hit perfectly for you, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think the thing about IER and all my early stuff, that there were slight influences of prog rock in there, which was purely by mistake. I grew up in Birmingham. I was 11 when I saw Hawkwind and Black Sabbath. I grew up with Led Zeppelin, so all those influences were with me. And when I discovered punk, what I discovered as a dyslexic was a form of music I could fit into, but I still had in my memory the music that I saw live for the first time. And IER started its life as an improvisation because we needed to do so many encores on our shows in 77, 78, 79, 1980. We were that large. We'd do 10 encores. So we just came up with our IER and we'd play it for 36 minutes, like a kind of tribal
Like
trance.
Bela Lugosi's Bauhaus, they can just go on forever, can't they?
Just go on and on and on until people just pass out.
Yeah.
I can remember, one performance we did of it. The band was so hot they were down to their underpants, and Phil Spalding was vomiting in a bucket. It just was going on and on and on, and we couldn't stop it. So IER started as a live improvisation in front of screaming punks.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. And just going back to the very early days, because I do a radio show I do Louder Than War Radio on Wednesday night. And in anticipation of this interview, I played Victims of a Riddle. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'll get it right in a minute. Victims of a Riddle, and it's almost avant-garde in its construction, in the way that it's delivered. There's a big difference between Victims of a Riddle to It's a Mystery, and that was a massive jump. How did that happen?
Victims of a Riddle was an improvisation at 2 in the morning. So Steve James, wonderful producer, 2 in the morning, I said, just play 3 notes. Keith Hale played 3 notes. We looped those notes because everyone was into looping then. It was the beginning of synthesizers.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I said, give me a microphone. And I did a 20-minute improvisation, which is on the re-release of Sheep Farming in Barnet. So everything about the single is in that improvisation.
Yeah.
And then Steve James and Keith Hale edited it into that single. So it is avant-garde, totally
It is,
avant-garde.
isn't
And
it? It really is.
it is the most extraordinary vocal, and the 20-minute improvisation. I mean, I have to say, is fucking amazing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's an amazing track, and like I say, I played it on Wednesday in the middle of the show in anticipation of this, and I absolutely love it. But there's a big jump from
Yeah,
that to It's a Mystery. We've got
yeah.
to.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
Keith Hale, yeah, Keith Hale wrote It's a Mystery. I contributed the second verse, but I was never ever credited as that, and I certainly don't earn royalties off it.
Right.
But Keith Hale had a band called Blood Donor, who I regularly sang with, and
Yeah.
I did a lot of demos for them. And Keith had written this long song called It's a Mystery. It had a 12-minute vocal at the top and a 20-minute instrumental. And Safari felt that that was going to be a hit song for me. So Keith and I went into the studio with Nick Tauber and arranged it into the single that everyone knows. So the record label Safari were desperate to iron out my avant-garde approach to everything
To
and
make it
to
more pop.
make it more pop. And
Wow.
I was complicit. I wanted success. Absolutely every other punk rocker around me was having major success. So I was complicit in how that journey happened.
You immersed yourself in it and allowed yourself to be transformed into, well, you're a punk's, well, they call you the punk priestess, don't they?
Yeah, yeah.
With the big hair. Who styled all the hair and everything? Was that from the hairstyling days?
Yeah, the hairstyle actually started, the big hair started with Thunder in the Mountains
Yeah.
when I was in a shoot with the very famous fashion photographer, John Swanell. And he brought in Robert Lebetta, who is a hair designer. And Lebetta had spent a week making these amazing peacock fans that they attached to my head.
All around your head. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we had to find a way of making that work live. So live, I would just backcomb my very thick hair and have big sunflower hair. But I kind of adopted that with the makeup artist Richard Shaurer on the Thunder in the Mountains artwork and never looked back really. That really caught on
It
on
was
that.
an iconic look. I mean,
Yeah,
like a huge peacock, purple
yeah.
and pink peacock. It was just absolutely amazing. So
And very, very satisfying at that time because it
especially
made
with the
you look a
makeup.
foot taller.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. Now I have to ask you about Sunday Brunch because I watched some of the early ones and they were quite modest, and then they got more flamboyant. And
Well, we were learning as we went along. I mean,
now you've got 433,000 people watching one video. It's incredible.
yeah, and we've now had 111 million hits. Um, we discovered as we went on that heavy rock and the more extreme the rock,
Yeah,
like Rammstein and all of those wonderful bands,
yeah,
the more views we'd get.
yeah,
And we think it's the simplicity of the kitchen.
yeah.
There's no production values. We do one take. Sometimes, on Alice Cooper's Poison, we did 21 takes.
No.
But most of the time, we do one take and we just go with that. And some people prefer to listen with the sound off because they can't hear the sound. Um, but we discovered when we did Metallica's Enter Sandman, and I didn't wear a bra and I was on the exercise bike, we hit 10 million very, very quickly. And
Yeah,
we thought we're onto something here.
a bit saucy.
But we say it's our carry on. It's rock and roll carry on. I am the Barbara Windsor of rock and roll.
What I love is the way Robert sort of looks into your bosom and goes,
Yeah.
sort of schlock horror. It's just-
Well, you see, for Robert, he just likes having a hot wife. I'm the advert. The way Robert sees it is, look, I'm Robert Fripp. I've got a hot wife. I mean, he's not possessive or jealous at all, but he really does like me to look his ideal of hot,
yeah,
which is very 1970s.
isn't it?
You know,
Yeah.
Benny Hill.
He comes across as such a lovely man. I remember when you came out of the jungle. I think Robert was waiting for you, and it was
Yeah.
almost in tears. And you have this very special relationship that really comes across, not just in the media, but on those videos as well. You can tell there's true love, between you. It's lovely to see.
We are that cliche that we are soulmates and best friends, and I think it helps that we are like chalk and cheese,
Yeah,
and we don't hold each other back. If he wants to go to the States for 2 months, he goes.
yeah,
If I want to go off and make a movie for 2 months, I go.
yeah,
There's never compromise, and I think that helps us a lot.
yeah. What do you attribute that to? That relationship? I read somewhere that you lived in separate houses and you sort of met.
Well,
I've
we
read a lot for this interview. You can.
yeah. For the first 20 years, we lived in separate houses. And then for the last 10 years, we lived in the same house. And as of 3 years ago, we now have separate houses again.
Okay.
I just let him be what he needs to be. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, yeah.
And he needs a hell of a lot of time alone. And funnily enough, I do too. And we both give each other that space.
It's fabulous. Look, I love watching your videos. I think they're absolutely amazing, and I look forward to the next one coming out. And I wish you well with them. You said you were going to do some sort of extra stuff on those videos, a film or something. What did you say?
Oh, okay. In 2023, October, we're touring Sunday.
Touring it. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So you're going to do Back in Black, and you're doing maybe Poison on all of those live on stage, are you?
Yes.
So you've got some special costumage coming on for that tour, then, have you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant.
I mean, basically, it's going to be an absolutely stonking rock show,
Yeah.
but it's all based around Sunday lunch.
I love that. Look, Toyah, it's been an absolute joy talking to you. We are running out of time, and I don't want to take up more of your time. So I've loved talking to you, and I really wish you well for the tour with Billy. I think it's going to be amazing for you.
I'm so excited.
I bet you are.
I love arenas.
Yeah, it'll be absolutely great, and it's an opportunity for all of those people to see you. Thousands and thousands of people in those arenas. That must be that you must be so excited.
It's thrilling, absolutely thrilling.
Yeah.
And I think I excel. I'm a better Toyah in that environment than I am at home. So I'm very, very excited.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Toyah. Thanks for
Thank
talking
you.
to me. But
All
I've
right.
really enjoyed talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Nigel. See you out there.
Take care. Look after you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.